saying. So I've been saying Adam's calendar was a beam me up Scotty device, is a teleportation device. For me, there's no doubt about it. First of all, it's a giant toroidal field machine. It's a giant torus. If you look at the structure, the two calendar stones in the middle, the moving frequencies that move both clockwise and anti-clockwise, we've measured it in both directions. So literally, like, you've got the two opposing motions of a toroidal field, one moving clockwise and one moving anti-clockwise, because it comes from the bottom. So you got the two opposing energetic fields that meet between the calendar stones, and we've measured it. So the indicators are there very clearly that we're dealing with a giant ancient machine, a very powerful machine. It's completely broken now. The fact that it's a calendar, the fact that you can track the time of the year because of the setting sun on the calendar stone and the shadow that it casts, that's just a built-in feature. That's got nothing to do with the machine.
Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World, Season 4, Episode 10. Tonight's guest is our very own South African born and bred Michael Tellinger. He is author, politician, and explorer. He has actually a pharmacy degree from Wits in Johannesburg that I think was back in 1983. He's authored actually 2 books and co-authored another 2. The 2 books that he's authored is The Slave Species of the Gods, The Secret History of the Anunnaki and the Mission to Earth, and then the other one that he authored was Ubuntu, Contributionism, a Blueprint of Human Prosperity. The books that he co-authored was The Temples of the African Gods, Decoding the Ancient Ruins of Southern Africa. I think you read that one, Will.
Yeah, I read.
And then the other one was Adam's Calendar, Discovering the Oldest Man-Made Structures on Earth, or a structure on Earth. Sorry, we've actually been there, Adam's Calendar, which we'll bring up with him. But that was very, very interesting. And then and obviously, look, he's got a lot. I know he's got a lot of YouTube things out as well with certain discoveries that they've had, and he's got an Amazon Prime. Don't know if it's a movie or series, but he's got something on Amazon Prime as well, which we.
He's also quite big on
series called Origins.
When Gaia started, he had an ancient civilization series, which was very good. Which was really, really good. I think it's still on there.
But I think you can, if you're on Gaia, you can always go back and check because I think they store all their stuff, so you can go and have a look at that. That's actually pretty cool.
So, geez, Michael, thank you for being on the show. It's an honor to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I love to be invited by South African podcasts because I do all these international podcasts all the time. I hardly ever do any South African media because I don't know why.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, we really stoked to have you here. And you've recently moved to, I don't know if it's recent anymore, but you were where you were doing all your work with the stone temples and Adam's Calendar, but now you are in another. I mean, I don't know if I should mention it on here because maybe I don't want people flocking there or not trying to find you or whatever. But you've moved to the Western Cape.
Well, yes and no. So I have a base there, but I'm not really spending much time there. I'm in Waterval-Boven.
Oh,
my main base is in Waterval-Boven at Stone Circle Lodge in the museum. I've got, when the Afrikaans expression, ver van jou goed na aan jou skade. So I've sort of learned a little bit of that lesson over the last few years, and I've had to really put my focus and attention on my lodge and my museum and the tours and the ruins because it was just sort of falling apart, especially after that BS lockdown that we had to deal with that pretty much destroyed the tourism industry. And I was doing tours, and from people all over the world were coming to South Africa. I was doing that for 10 years, and it just suddenly stopped, and everything just closed and collapsed.
Yeah, because you were in Montague, and I remember because I was driving through. I go there quite a lot, and I heard you were there, and I was like, geez, I wonder what he's doing in Montague, because did he find something amazing there? And I'm trying to wait to hear something that's come out of Montague. And I was thinking, why did he? Yeah, it was quite interesting. But I'm glad you're back doing what you're doing.
Before we carry on there, I want to ask you a question, Mike. So how do you go from in 1983 to getting your, I think it was a pharmacy degree, How do you go from there to to where you are today? I mean, that's quite a big jump.
It's really I guess anyone who's got an inquiring mind, I love to study all kinds of stuff. I mean, I love biology and chemistry and physics and genetics and health. So, for me, studying at medical school and studying pharmaceutics and pharmacology and how healing works and organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and like I said, and genetics and molecular biology, all that, I just loved it. I ate it up. And then, and then you realize that, all you are is a peddler for the big pharma and their drugs and what they push. And you realize, okay, well, we're not really helping the situation here. And having an inquiring mind, and I get attracted to other things. So, you read. I was an avid reader for many, many years, reading. I guess I don't read fiction. I don't read fiction at all. I cannot read a fiction book. I just can't do it. So everything I read has always been either historical or scientific or astronomy or physics or exploration, archaeology, ancient civilizations, all that kind of stuff. So, and then I discovered the Sumerian texts and the Zachariah Sitchin's take on it, which was really interesting and an eye bender. But even when I was young, first year varsity, I was 19. I read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, and my mind literally went boom! Wow! Now this guy has got the capacity to look at things very differently, and just say what you see. This is what it looks like. Maybe it's not stupid, ignorant, Stone Age people. Maybe it's something else. And Eric von Daniken changed my life, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I must say it was because of him. Because I mean, I've got what's it, Gold of the Gods, Chariots of the Gods. I've read so many. Also, Jay, what was it? Jay Blumrick, his book, The Spaceships of Ezekiel. When I read those books back, and I'm going back into the 80s as well, when I read that, it had such a different take on things, and it makes you realize. I mean, we always get given a one-track understanding from schooling. But then when you start reading these other things, your mind opens and you think, hold on, there's something way more to what we actually understand. And these people outside, I'm still sorry to say, and I know, I've been listening to a lot of your stuff on YouTube and stuff, and you're 100% right. We actually know nothing of what's happened in our past.
Listen, our education system is the problem. Lee, that's the problem. Our education system is squarely responsible for creating graduates with mostly with closed minds, and literally the moment you step out of it and you realize what's going on, you realize that they're just creating an obedient labor force. Like Rockefeller said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. And that's exactly how the education system is slowly but surely molded into a factory. And you don't question authority, you don't question your teachers. This is how it is. This is what the textbook says. And if the textbook says this, then that must be the absolute truth. Well, it's not the absolute truth. I was having a discussion this morning at breakfast with my friend who's a mechanical engineer, runs a huge billion-rand international company, and we're talking about science, physics, the structure of the atom, the flow of electrons, and all the lies that we are told about everything. And it's sold to us as fact. This is how it is, and don't question it. Because the guys that run the labs, the research labs, are the guys that run the textbooks for our schools and universities. And that works in the medical field. The big pharma runs the biggest labs. So when they publish stuff, there's always an incentive and a benefit to them. And the more you step out of the education and the academic realm, the more you start researching yourself and talking to scientists and researchers outside of mainstream research labs in private research capacity, your world changes. So I've been fortunate because I've been traveling the world for the last 20 years. I've traveled more than 35 countries or more. I've done lectures in more than 400 cities around the world, and that leads to meeting remarkable people in all fields of work, from astronomers to Russian scientists, American scientists, Croatian, English, Indian researchers from healthcare, medicine, to science, technology, alternative energy, healing modalities. I've had the benefit of meeting some remarkable people that the average person on the street will never ever have the opportunity to meet. And that's all as a result of me choosing to go a different route, questioning the system and proposing my own theories and my own ideas. And that brings those people out of hiding because they feel they can come and talk to you and share their stories with you. And I've been very fortunate about that.
Great. Well, Michael, can you just bring us up to date what you're working on at the moment? Because we know a lot about the stone circles and Adam's calendar and that, but have you made any recent discoveries, or what are you working on at the moment?
Well, it's a dual thing, William. Obviously, my main thing that I'm working on is One Small Town. So everything I do revolves around keep laying a stronger foundation for the One Small Town initiative. So we can hopefully very soon in the future launch that first Cinderella One Small Town, where everything is put perfectly into place, launched the way that it should be launched, with all the experience that I've gained over the last 20 years about intentional communities, and us trying various times to start the One Small Town initiative from South Africa to Brazil to Canada to the UK to Australia to Italy and various countries that I forget, Ireland and so forth, and the USA, and learning where things break down. Where is it that when people try and work together, when they try and create an intentional community, why does it always break down? And we now have 20 years of experience and a platform and our memberships and our digital wallet and everything. So we've got an incredible platform that we've put together to help people launch their intentional communities so that they don't collapse, so that it grows into an ongoing abundance and prosperity. And so that's what I'm working on. However, I still have to continue doing I've got a lodge here that I have to take care of. I've got my museum. So the breakthrough research in the museum and the stone circles and Adam's calendar and the ancient civilizations, that research keeps growing, because what I'm finding is that some of the things that I discovered 10 years ago, I didn't understand it when I discovered it. Now suddenly I look at it and I go, oh my God, that's what this is. I didn't see it then. Now I can see it. So, and one of the biggest things is, we now know that the stone circles are not dwellings for people or animals. So anybody that writes that, any academic or South African academic book that is published, and there are several of them that have been published, and stating that this is the Bakoni ruins and all this, and ascribing these stone circles were built by the Bakoni tribe and all this kind of crap. It's all BS. It's all lies. It's made up theories that they push as academics through academic published books, which is criminal, by the way, but they push that as fact, as historic fact. And that's just unforgivable. I'm sorry, because people pay big money to send their children to school to learn lies and not learn to have an open mind. Say, well, the Bakoni people inhabited these structures. Yes, they used them, but they did not build them. I had the Bakoni royal family visiting my place at Stone Circle Lodge for a whole day. I spent an entire day with them. I took them through my museum. I showed them the stone circles, the vastness of it, not just the ones that they occupied in this region. They were so blown away by this, they couldn't believe it. And then I started to question them about their relationship with the authors of some of these academic books. I'm not going to mention names because it's embarrassing. It just paints those academics in a really, really bad light. I should mention them because they should be fired for what they're doing from their academic positions. And yet they hold senior professor tenure at some of our most prestigious universities. And they are lying to the people of the world, and especially the students. Instead of saying, we don't know, let's keep exploring, let's find out. It's terrible.
But the thing is, Michael,
so they told me that sorry, Lee, the Bakoni royal family, they told me that they didn't say at any stage to these academics that their tribes built these structures. They said they occupied them, but they didn't build them. And yet the academics went and published that they built these structures. So they were pissed off. They told me they were not happy with it.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say on those stone structures. I mean, you mentioned, I think it was about 2 years ago, you had a talk on this, and I mean that runs for hundreds of kilometers. I mean, these guys are not going to be building things for hundreds of Ks for their 10 cattle. You know what I mean? So these guys that are doing the research and they're writing these books, they obviously don't, they're borrowing information from somebody else. They haven't actually gone and done their own homework, first of all. The second thing that you picked up, which was actually quite fascinating, and we've been to Adam's calendar, so I want to kind of tell you a little bit about our experience there. But the thing that there's frequencies that are working within the stone circles. The frequency thing for me was a very mind-opening thing, because frequencies help plants grow. They help. There's certain things, and I know you had the idea that perhaps these things were used for, to feed hundreds of thousands, even millions of people. Because I mean, it was a wide, it's such a big surface area for growing crops and those kind of things. And if the frequencies were there, that's a great way of growing an enormous amount or an abundant amount of food in perhaps a short period of time. So that was the first thing that got to me in that discussion that you had. The other thing that you mentioned, and this is going back to now the Adam's calendar thing, where we actually went and William shot a bit of a documentary there. I found
Mark, I wanted you to have you in the documentary, but I couldn't get a hold of you. You're busy, or you didn't get back to me or whatever. So I just took Lee there, and he gave the gist of it. It's like a second-hand.
Second-hand. But I found something there. Those two center stones. I call them. I think you had something very similar, but I call them the singing stones, because when you hit it, they ring. They're specifically those two. And I mean, Barberton in that area, that's quite a big gold mining area. And I know gold, especially if you go back into the biblical times, and if you go even to the Anunnaki, they talk about the gold. The gold is very specific. So obviously Barberton would be, for them, very, very important. And then something kind of, when I was there, I had this image in my mind, and it was almost like gateways. The frequency, because obviously to get that gold out to various certain places on Earth, maybe even elsewhere, the amount of energy that would be needed to move these things is perhaps where those stone circles are coming in, and the grids that are throughout. It's almost creating portals. A portal that would be created that you'd be able to transport these things from one place to another in quick time. I'm sure, I mean, the advanced civilizations that they had in those days, you wouldn't need to be having. Sorry, Michael.
When you say transport these things, are you talking about transporting
gold
the stone
and the
transporting
food?
The gold?
Gold and food. Because remember, you were
gold
saying
and food. Yeah.
So for me, that was very clear in looking at that area. And I thought, okay, this is the gold area. In order for the gold to move quickly from one point to another, what if that was a gateway? It was a gateway to step into, especially with the frequencies, opening at a certain frequency, going through, depositing the gold wherever it is, even on Mars. And I'm sorry to say this might be a hell of a stretch, but on different planetary systems to deliver the gold, even Nibiru, possible. That they needed the stuff to get through. So I thought it was a very fascinating thing.
Lee, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I don't know if you've seen any of my lectures from years ago. It's exactly what I've been saying. So I've been saying Adam's calendar was a beam me up Scotty device. It's a teleportation device. For me, there's no doubt about it. First of all, it's a giant toroidal field machine. It's a giant torus. If you look at the structure, the two calendar stones in the middle, the moving frequencies that move both clockwise and anti-clockwise, we've measured it in both directions. So literally, like, you've got the two opposing motions of a toroidal field, one moving clockwise and one moving anti-clockwise, because it comes from the bottom. So you get the two opposing energetic fields that meet between the calendar stones, and we've measured it. So the indicators are there very clearly that we're dealing with a giant ancient machine, a very powerful machine. It's completely broken now. The fact that it's a calendar, the fact that you can track the time of the year because of the setting sun on the calendar stone and the shadow that it casts, that's just a built-in feature. That's got nothing to do with the machine. This is a highly sophisticated toroidal vortex generating machine, and it was most likely used for something like teleportation or who knows what. We're just speculating.
Yeah.
But I think you're definitely on your thought was going to exactly where my thoughts have been for a long time. So well done. And the gold thing is really important because if you start looking at Barberton, that whole valley below, it's the entire place is filled with yellow sand. And especially when you drive down the side dirt road along that Barberton impact crater, it's just yellow sand. Sometimes it's like 20 meters of, it's like a sand dune. It's like the mine dumps around Joburg. It's what it looks like. And you start thinking, okay, so if this was Enki's gold mine and this was an impact crater, we know that impact craters create an environment that brings the gold to the surface. So impact sites are always rich in gold. And this is why we have Sheba gold mine and about 4 other gold mines on the other side of Adam's calendar along that ridge. I think there's still a few of those gold mines that are open there today, but Sheba gold mine is still there, obviously. And the stories about Sheba gold mine being so incredibly rich, believe me, I don't want to digress now, but there are stories about, oozing thick jelly-like gold that oozes out of veins, holes that are like veins, like roots of trees or veins that just come out thick, slow-moving jelly gold, pure gold. And that has been verified. This is no longer speculation. I have that verified through at least 3 different sources. So now we know it's real. And the fact that it's potentially where Enki may have started his first gold mine in the deep Abzu, as they says, and I've connected some of the Sitchin's translations, which might be contentious or whatever, but it all fits. It all points to this place. So it might be contentious, but I've made the connection. So, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, God bless you. Have a nice life. If you like it, then here's something to look at. And I'm thinking that maybe this may have been that very first gold mine that the Sumerian texts talk about in the deep Abzu, where they found a tremendous amount of gold and they started to mine it on a large scale. And I'm thinking that maybe they started to mine that gold in that Barberton impact crater and it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And that entire crater eventually mined for gold. And that's why it is so big. It's a lot bigger now than it was originally because they mined it. And that's why we have so many of these ancient gold mines that have been found recently and reopened because they actually they've been there for potentially, 300,000 years or more. And that's where Adam's calendar comes in. Adam's calendar is about 300,000 years old. There have been several avenues of research and conclusions that we've reached and deductions. And then don't forget that Adam's calendar itself is right on top of a gold mine. There's a gold mine under Adam's calendar. It's insane. You can't make this stuff up.
But do you think they're going to one day go and mine there and take Adam's calendar out, or is it protected? Or
no, they were going to. They still. No one's going to mine there now. It's a nature reserve now. So luckily that didn't happen. But when Johann Heine first discovered the site in 2003 or 2004, and when I started to go there with Johann, there was still a pile of stones, as there are several other piles of stones in that nature reserve, with a metal stick sticking out of it and a plaque on top of it that still has the name of the applicant and the license and the permit for the right to mine gold there. So it was a gold claim, and it was right there next to Adam's calendar. I have photographs in my book, Adam's calendar book, of that claim still there. Since then it's been broken down. People took it away as souvenirs and whatever, but there was a claim right there that was never mined. Can you imagine if they started to mine there, Adam's calendar would be gone.
Yeah, 100%.
So do you think there was kind of some divine intervention that stopped the mining, or what are you?
Yeah, something happened. Something happened.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
But it's also, in your book, Temples of Africa, I've got it here. I read this one. I've also read that. I've also read the slave
species of God.
Yeah, slave species of God, which was very good. I really enjoyed that. But anyway, in the temples one, you actually mentioned those passages, those long passages between the temples, were like where they would transport gold as a frequency.
Yeah, look,
A-
so much has changed since that book was written. I was new when I wrote that book. I had an open mind, and we'd already measured the frequencies in the stone circles. And actually, I don't think we measured them. No, we haven't measured the frequencies when I released Temples of the African Gods. So I was just speculating that they may have been channels, and so forth. But what we in 2010 was the first time that we measured the frequencies in the stone circles, and that changed everything. We suddenly realized that each stone circle is a energy generating machine, and the channels that connect them are just like wires connecting one energy generator to another. So you collectively have this huge machine with millions of stone circles connected to each other generating energy. And
yeah.
and then the next obvious question is, what is the energy for?
Yeah, my
Well,
thoughts on that was to definitely get to Nibiru, because I mean, you were saying in your discussion that a lot of places are almost ancient computers, like computer
yeah,
chips, the way they were designed. So
yeah,
that kind of
circuit
leads,
boards, yeah,
yeah, correct, and that's kind of that leads me to think, all right, so this is found around the whole world. We were powering something that needed enough power to get somewhere fast. And we know from Zechariah's books that Nibiru was going through some hectic issues there with their atmospheres and all sorts of stuff, and they were needing gold, and I think they're needing huge amounts of gold. And Earth is actually a hub of gold. I mean, we've got so much gold on Earth. So
yeah,
we were used as almost like and obviously, yes, the food to feed the giants, but we were used as a hub to get the gold. So they needed that power to get the gold through to Nibiru at quite a. I mean, Nibiru is far away,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the whole Nibiru thing is interesting. I'm sort of changing my mind on Nibiru. I have, I guess, that's already happened a long time ago.
Mm.
I'm in two minds about Nibiru. I'm not sure if it was misconstrued, if it was a misinterpretation by Sitchin. If you read Anton Parks, who's probably the most prolific and smartest translator of Sumerian tablets today. Anton Parks's take on Nibiru is that he hasn't come across any mention of Nibiru in any of the Sumerian texts.
Okay.
So I find that interesting. And Anton Parks's take on the Anunnaki is really intense. It is detailed and dark, very dark. And it's still similar stories, Enki, Enlil, all that. Just the details differ. The
Okay.
details differ. And it is about the gold. It's about creating Adamu as a slave. So those details stay, but the peripheral details vary.
Okay.
And so what I am of the opinion now is that the Anunnaki they needed gold
Mm.
to live on this planet because of its density, the atmosphere, and so forth, may have affected their immortality or the longevity of life.
Mm.
And gold, in its monoatomic state, not the shiny gold, the monoatomic state of gold, is what kept them alive and gave them immortality and kept them healthy.
Okay.
So it was literally a drug of life. They had to have it if they wanted to survive. And that's why they were so obsessed with it. So, because that's the other question you have to ask yourself. Why would the Anunnaki be so obsessed with gold and go to such lengths to get gold? It doesn't make any sense. It just, and for me, the conclusion was it was a means to their survival. If they didn't have gold, they weren't going to survive. And not necessarily about their planet and the survivor of their planet, but surviving here on this earth.
Okay.
And then you start to look at gold. What happens to monoatomic gold when you ingest it? What it does to your body? What monoatomic gold does on its own when you expose it to frequency? Because resonance, vibration, frequency. That's the source of all of creation. God said, "Let there be light." So even light is an aspect of sound. And again, if people are confused about the sound, is just how we experience vibration, resonance, and frequency in this density of ours called Earth. We experience that as sound. We also experience it as light because light and sound are inextricably connected. You can't have one without the other. Every sound frequency has a light frequency attached to it, and every light frequency has a sound frequency attached to it, except the sound frequency of light is really, really high. You can't hear it. So, yeah, imagine if we could hear the things we look at. That would be an interesting
But some people do
situation.
because of the
But
Synesthesia.
with synesthesia.
yeah. That explains also why logos and symbols are so important, because each logo and a symbol projects frequencies through its shape. So our eyes pick up the frequencies of the shape that it projects, and that translates to resonance, frequency, and our brains compute it subconsciously. Pick up the frequency of that image, that shape, that logo, whatever. It could be a carving or a rock painting or a logo of Chevron or Coca-Cola. We pick it up and perceive it as such. And those light frequencies also have sound frequencies attached to them at very high gigahertz frequencies and even higher. It's wild. It's wild. Once the penny drops for you, how everything is interconnected, and the importance of toroidal fields and cymatics in this. And this is why my discovery that the stone circles are cymatic patterns that represent the sound frequency of the Earth at that specific point. So every stone circle is an amplification device of the frequency of the Earth at that specific point. And it amplifies the frequency of Mother Earth in all its different fractals, high frequencies and lower frequencies as well. And whether you know it or not, when you walk into a stone circle, it starts to vibrate the trillions of cells in your body with that frequency, that Earth frequency, which is a good frequency. And your body cells like those frequencies. They like to vibrate at those stone circle frequencies. And this is why I've had hundreds of testimonials of people saying how they've experienced some form of healing when spending time with me in the stone circles. It's quite mind-blowing. I mean, to the point of cancer.
Wow.
A woman from Vermont and her husband came twice to South Africa over a 1 year period to come and spend time with me on our sacred sites tours. We spent time in all the stone circles and Adam's calendar in Great Zimbabwe and more. And she was cured of cancer. And I only discovered this a year after that in 2016.
Wow. So it's like a natural rife machine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So that's why you look so young still, Michael. Just hanging out in the circles.
Yeah, in fact, I went up there last week. My brother-in-law John felt a bit sick. He's got problems with his back and all that. So I said, let's go up to the stone circle. Let's go there for an hour, and we just go hang out there and go and heal. And the next morning, I said, John, how are you feeling? And he went, I feel better. I could definitely say that I feel better. And then he went there again. So he's been going there every day now.
Okay.
Wow.
Now you've changed my mind.
For people that are listening, a cymatics is like when you put a frequency onto. I don't know if people have seen this on. You can look at it on YouTube. You put an electrical current into a plate and you pour sand on it, and
Metal plate.
It dances around until it makes this beautiful pattern. Almost like.
So every frequency has its own unique shape and a pattern. It's called prime resonance frequency. So every frequency will have its own shape. So when you put sand on a metal plate and you put a speaker under it and you play, like a tone, and it goes from low to high, you can see the shapes of that sand change. So there's dozens of videos like that on YouTube. You can go and entertain yourself. Once you get stuck on that, I tell you, it triggers something in your genetic memory. When you see that happening, it has a triggering effect on you, on anyone that sees it. It's like a primordial recognition of the importance of sound.
Sacred geometry. It shows you that it actually exists all around us all the time. The sacred geometry,
all around us,
all vibrations, all frequencies, all light. It's a complete sacred geometry around us all the time. And that
I'd like
proves
to recommend to your viewers, your listeners, to go and look at find Eric Rankin on YouTube. Just go find Sonic Geometry, Eric Rankin. Eric, I became friends with him. He runs a radio show in Laguna Beach, California. So every year when I traveled through California, I would go and hang out with him on his radio show, and we'd talk. And I said something one day that triggered him, and to do with sound and resonance and shapes and cymatics, and it made him think. And he's a musician, so he went and experimented with platonic shapes. The 5 platonic shapes. The triangle, the tetrahedron, and triangle, the cube, dodecahedron, icosahedron, and I forget which other ones they are, but they're 5 of them platonic shapes, platonic solids. And he took the angles of an equilateral triangle and a circle. So if you take the angles in the equilateral triangle, it's 60, 60, 60. So they add up to 180. But what does 180 hertz sound like on a keyboard? So he played it, and found the hertz, and he said, "Oh wow, that's F sharp major, and it's very low, 180 hertz. It's low. I mean, you can hardly hear it. It's very low." And then the octave above that would be 360. So it doubles that, right? So octave, resonance, harmonics is just doubling. And the same works in electricity. When you work in electricity, it's all doubling the voltage, doubling the current. So you realize that electricity and sound and resonance and music it's all connected, all works on the same basic principles of harmonics, resonance, and the whole universe is based on that. And toroidal fields are based on that. When you study vortex maths, 369, and all the numbers associated with that, it's spectacular. The moment you study this, everything falls into place. And this is what we should be teaching our children at school from the earliest of ages, not the crap that we teach them to confuse them.
Yeah, sure. And then that gentleman you mentioned earlier, sorry, I just forgot his name. That
Eric Rankin.
Eric Rankin, yeah.
No, the one that did he interpreted the
Sumerian text.
The Sumerian text.
Yeah, Anton Parks. I have a few of his books here.
So
Anton Parks?
What did he say? So he doesn't think there was a planet at all. Where did he think the gold went, or did he? What does he say?
He was saying that it's for consumption.
Yeah,
but I think Michael was saying.
I must say I'm not quite sure what Anton Parks says about why they were obsessed with the gold. I can't, off the top of my mind now, remember what he says about that. I was more interested in how he was talking about Enki, and he also said different things that Enlil was not Enki's brother. Enlil was actually Enki's clone.
Oh wow!
Enki cloned Enlil. Yeah.
Okay.
And he also says he gives you a whole list of all the different species, and I forget what their names are. From the primordial species that were close to the first species that seems to have come out of creation, and then the Anunnaki fit in there. But what he says is that each and every one of those species is cloned. They didn't evolve naturally. They were like 1 or 2 primordial species, and those then cloned everything else. So that was a bit of a mind flip for me, what Anton Parks says. I'm still trying to process that. Not sure. I don't quite understand how that works, but I'm not so interested in that. I'm more interested in what we're dealing with here on Earth. And how we're going to get out of this mess. Because for me, everything that I study with the ancient civilizations that opened the door for me to understanding sound, resonance, cymatics, understanding toroidal fields. And remember, I've got the tools. I've got these advanced tools that the Anunnaki used in my museum, and I show you how they work. So, wow. We've got scientific evidence. We've got measurements to show you that toroidal fields and these donut-shaped torus stones generate energy. In fact, I'll grab you one right here. Hold on. Yeah. I just happen to have the torus stone here.
Nice. Beautiful.
This is the torus stone.
Stunning one.
That crashed the TSA security system in Doha, Qatar, in 2013. This one here.
Okay. Yes, you were saying you went through the airport and it crashed the...
Yeah. I had this in my bag, and I was hauled off the plane by 5 guys with guns. They were very threatening. It was the scariest time of my life ever, ever. Never ever experienced fear like that before or since. I really thought that was it. I was done. And anyway, that tourist and crashed the TSA security system. It shut down all their computers and spiked them or whatever it did. And the reason I know this is because when I came back on the plane, they made me open my bag, and I immediately knew what they were looking for. So I lifted up my clothes, I put them aside, I took out the stone, I said, I think you're looking for this. And they looked at this and they were confused. And literally for like, 20 seconds, which seems like an eternity, they said, okay, put it back. I put it back, put the clothes on, zipped the bag up. I went back up the plane. The bag went back on the plane. I went up the stairs, the door closed. I sat down next to my partner, and she said, when she was standing at the open door, while I was doing all that down there with my bag, the captain came out of the cockpit, and the captain told her, whatever's in that bag crashed the TSA security system. The captain told her this. So I didn't make this up. And I doubt that the captain would make up a story like this just to try and impress us.
Yeah, of course.
But then they let it back on the plane.
Yes. So the point that this makes is they gave very clear instructions to those guys that were checking my bag what to look for. So when I showed them, they didn't check the rest of my bag. You know what happens if you get flagged going through security. What happens to you when they flag you and they take you aside and they open your bag? Has that ever happened to you?
They put the glove on with the Vaseline.
That's happened to me several times. What happens is they take everything out of your bag.
Correct.
Everything. And then they check the side of the bag. They check inside and outside, the wheels. They check everything. They don't just look at one thing and say, okay, fine, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Here, they stopped the plane. They made me open my bag. When I showed them the stone, they were happy. And they didn't check the rest of the bag. It took me 2 years after that because what post-traumatic
stress disorder,
or whatever it's called, PTSD.
Yeah,
post-traumatic stress disorder.
yeah.
Because it was traumatic. It took me 2 years to figure out. Oh my God, they didn't check the rest of my bag, which means I showed them what they were told to look for.
Okay.
And when they found what they were told to look for, they said, okay, fine. So at least they knew, because they obviously knew this technology. They just wanted to check that that's what it was.
Okay. So now is that part of a bigger machine?
No, these are just energy generating devices. They generate energy.
You don't think they're slotted in somehow?
I'll show you. Let me show you.
Okay.
Yeah. Get the full tour here, man.
I thought there might be like a bigger machine of some sorts that the guys created and they use those.
No. This is a small device. I mean, there are stone circles that are magnetron shaped that look like this.
Okay.
So they literally are magnetrons. So now we have stone circles that generate energy. And then we have stone circles that are built like magnetrons that are like fillers. They fill in insane amount of energy into the giant energetic grid that generates energy. So these magnetron-shaped stone circles are like, they spike high energies in there.
Okay.
So, here you can see these are the stone circles are like cymatic patterns. They're like cymatic shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I just want to show you how the stone circles generate energy. Oh, here's a picture of me and Nassim Haramein. That's the stone, 2013. Just after it crashed the TSA security system, when I finally delivered it to Nassim in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I found that he wasn't using it for research, so I requested it back. And then it made its treacherous journey back to South Africa, which is a whole nother bunch of experiences. But I just want to show you how the stone generates energy, and here it is. So if you take a heat-sensitive or thermal camera, and you take a picture of the stone, this is what it looks like from the one side.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So it
generates
very
high. That red section. This is very high frequency.
It generates heat. Yeah. It shows you it's 45 degrees, 45.3 degrees.
Yeah.
When you turn the stone around, it sucks energy.
Wow.
Okay, and it's now 25 0.1 degrees. So from 45 to 25 degrees. There's a 20-degree difference.
Jesus.
So there's no doubt that this is an energy generating device.
Jeez, have you
If
put
anybody
the thing on
tells you
your
these are
forehead?
weights for digging sticks, these are freaking ignorant Stone Age historians, archaeologists that have no idea what they're doing. They should be fired from their job.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Jeez, like it's so. Go for it, Lee.
I want to take the podcast to a slightly detour. You
Go ahead.
found some interesting stuff there in that area, which were and you actually found them out. They were part of ribs, bits and pieces of body, bone, and you said you were going to get them DNA tested. Did they come back as positive? Because I remember you said you were going to try and get the guys to see if they were these actual skeletons of giants that were here.
Right. So yeah, this is the era January 2018 that forever changed my life and changed the whole the meaning of all the stone circles. And so now there are millions of these stone circles. For your viewers, they're not just 100 or 200 or 1,000 or 4,000 or 100,000. They're most likely at this stage 10 million, possibly more, of these stone circles in southern Africa. I'm talking South Africa, Zimbabwe, bits of Botswana. It covers a huge area, like a 500,000 square kilometer area. So we're dealing not just with a small little, a few people that built 10 million of these structures. So you got to ask yourself, and I'm coming back to the fossils because that's critical. So the stone circles are not dwellings for people. The original people that built them, most likely the Anunnaki and their slaves that they were cloning to build these stone circles to generate energy. They were built as a giant energy generating machine. And they interconnected with all these terraces. So the energy that was created by these stone circles may have also been the frequencies to feed into the terraces, because they're just terraces everywhere, agricultural terraces, that may have been stimulating the growth of growing food, like William said right up front, or you said right up front. So there's that connection, that these ancient sites, they were generating energy, but also growing food from stimulating. And these are good energies. Remember, these are frequencies coming from the earth. So these are good Schumann resonance related frequencies. That means that if you expose food to this and seeds to this, they'll grow like crazy.
Yeah, 100%.
They're going to grow healthy and strong. They won't need pesticide. They won't need fertilizer. They're going to need minimum water. They're just going to grow because they're getting the right frequencies into their root systems. And we're doing that today. We're doing that today with certain advanced researchers that we're about to launch this technology to the farmers of South Africa to help stimulate their crops and their farms by using these frequencies remotely from the farmer never sees us. We activate it remotely for their farm.
Nice.
To stop the pests eating their crops, to stimulate their soil like a remote vibrational frequency fertilizer so their crops grow better and they don't get eaten by bugs.
Awesome.
Wow. It's also funny because there's another, I mean, I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he came up with a theory quite recently that the pyramids were actual things to make fertilizer in, because he kept on walking in there and it smelled like the smell. They said, people, the academics said it's bat guana and whatnot, but he says no, it's actually a chemical released by fertilizer, and that's probably what they were doing. They were using the pyramids to make like high frequency fertilizer. So I just thought that was interesting. And also you saying kind of a similar thing.
Yeah. See, I doubt that they were making anything in the pyramids. The pyramid is like the stone circles. Pyramids are very powerful machines. It's a giant machine, and it's stimulated by the sun. And this is when you see many of these ancient. So the stone circles are stimulated by the Earth's resonance. So you don't need any weird stuff. It's constantly working because the Earth never stops ringing like a bell. So the stone circles work. They still work now, although they're in a state of absolute broken downness. They're broken, and yet they still generate energy. They're still healing people. It's weird. So when you look at these other ancient sites, and when the sun comes up at this solstice or this equinox, and it comes down a long passage, and at the and on the and it comes and at the down, and then the sunlight at sunrise or sunset hits the standing stone, right? What is that for? Remember, the sunlight has a very specific frequency on that day of the year. It's like hitting a certain keyboard or enter on your computer keyboard when that sun comes in and it hits that standing stone. That's what it is. So these ancient sites that are stimulated by the sun and are aligned with the sun, and these channels of sunlight come in and hit a stone, it's like stimulating, switching the machine on to perform a specific task. And then when the sun
Frequency.
comes up on that day and the sunlight comes in from a different side, it hits a different stone, and then it stops it from doing that and it does something else. So they built these giant machines to be stimulated by the frequency of the sun and the moon and some of the starlights, so forth. So once you get the frequency thing and you understand how powerful that is, you can pretty much explain all of this stuff.
Yeah,
And it becomes simple to explain and yet infinitely more complex, because now you got to figure out, well, what are they doing with the machines and why do they need these machines? And and
Yeah.
hundreds.
So
That's
the-
it. Tell me about the Giants. I want to know.
oh, the Giants, yeah. So 2018, I was picking up these stones that are in my museum. The first stone I picked up in 2000, early 2008. This long stone, you'll see it on many of the videos. I hold it up and I tap it and it rings beautifully. It rings like a bell. And I call them stones that ring like bells. You can go to YouTube and put in Michael Tillinger ringing stone compilation, and you'll see the video. And I couldn't understand these weird shaped stones. So I would collect these weird shaped stones because I just found them intriguing. Why would these stones have these weird shapes? So whenever I found the weird shaped stone, I would pick it up, bring it back to my place, and that became the museum. And it just grew and grew in these weird shaped stone artifacts. And the stone shapes were diverse, like crazy diverse shapes, and like teardrop shapes. I started to pick up teardrop shapes from little ones to large ones, like you can hardly pick up. And I couldn't understand, why is this thing going on and why these stones, these weird shapes. And then suddenly in January 2018, I was doing a Stone Circle expedition, research expedition. I had 12 people here from all over the world. They came for a month, and we spent a month going up the mountain every day, just exploring. And we would also, what we did then, we would take about 7 or 8 like major bodily function measurements, like your temperature, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your iris response, your blood sugar levels, with a thermal imaging camera to see how the blood flows in your body. We'd take it before we went to the stone circles and then immediately afterwards. And I can tell you then already, the conclusion was that the stone circles have a profound beneficial effect on our body from those results. And that we did that for a month, or at least 20 days with some breaks in between. So
Where
it's
do you
not
have
just we
this
did it
data?
once, we did it repeatedly and the same measurements repeatedly, 12 people. So this is a real case study. Anyone can argue against it. This is a case study. And it repeatedly shows a beneficial effect of being exposed to the frequencies that are coming out of the stone circles. That's mind-blowing. That's real research. No one has done that since or before.
That's incredible.
Well, we've done it since. We've done other experiments since, but no one has done it before. So, and then we suddenly discovered the fossils. So I picked up another one of these weird elongated stones, and I was holding it in my hand thinking, why is the stone this weird shape? And I couldn't understand it. And I just put it down on the stone wall, and I said, by the time we come down this mountain, I will know why the stone is this weird shape. It's like I manifested my own future reality. And I'm telling you, half an hour later, we were coming down. And as I came around the corner and I looked at the stone wall from about 10 meters away, I saw that stone, that long, elongated stone, lying there, slightly bent. I looked at it and I went, as I was going closer to it, I said, that's not a stone. That's a rib. And I lifted it up. I could clearly see it was a rib, a big, beautiful rib of some creature. You could see where it used to be connected to the rib cage, where it got snapped off. and it just turned to stone. And then I looked down, and right below my feet, it was another rib, but a rib that you find higher up on the rib cage here, that's slightly flattened and it's more bent, and it's clearly a rib cage rib. And it was like suddenly, once I was blind and now I could see, man, and suddenly everyone in that group of 12 people and me, we just looked around and we went, oh my God, these weird shaped stones are fossilized, petrified body parts of creatures. And they could be humanoid, they could be animals, they could be. And then we started to go in search of fossils. Then it just became a fossil hunt for like 2 weeks. We were just obsessed with finding fossils. And boy, did we find fossils.
Jeez, it's so funny because I was telling a friend of mine that I was going to have you on our podcast, and she was like, wow, I was there by the stone circle and I found a foot. I found a foot. And she was so, and she even showed everyone that everyone said it was a foot. But then she was like, please just don't tell Michael, because he's going to want the foot back.
Well, everything I find, so I tell people is that please don't pick things up, because those things belong in a museum, so everybody can come and see it. They don't belong in private collections, So whenever I find something that's relevant or significant, I pick it up, but I put it in the museum so everybody can see it. So it's not in my private collection somewhere. I find that, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. So literally the mountains are covered in fossilized body parts. I mean, we've got so many, it's endless what we've got. Hearts, ribs, lungs, legs, pieces of fingers of giants. And this is why I know we have giants, because the one tooth, on that expedition in January 2018, when we went fossil hunting, then we'd break up into pairs, into twos, and then we just go and look and find stuff. And if you find something, you'd put your hand up and say, I've got something, and then others would come and we'd look and study it, take pictures, document it. Where was it found? Where is it? Take photographs of it in location so we know exactly where it was found, and then we'd bring it to the museum. And I was with this woman from Akron, Ohio, and I picked up the stone. I said, this is a weird looking stone. I lifted it up like this and I held it, and she said, oh, that's a tooth. That's an incisor. She's a dentist. So she immediately identified it as an incisor, but it's slightly more than a foot long and big. You can see the root. You can see where the root is. You can see where the tooth part comes down. And she went, that's an incisor, and clearly belongs to a really large person. So
humanoid.
Humanoid. It looks very much like a humanoid incisor. Yeah,
Well,
like it looks identical. Yeah, to a human incisor. Yeah.
This brings me to something else. I heard you mentioning this, and I thought there's a discussion on the internet about fossilized trees, but they are massive. So I don't know if you remember Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the one that Steven Spielberg did back in the 80s.
Devil's Tower, yeah.
Yes. Now, according to some people, that is actually a fossilized section of a tree.
Yeah.
The bottom section.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
And apparently they found this all around Earth, that there's just massive fossilized trees and other sorts of things that I think. But if that is the case, the place must have been huge compared to what
this Earth was magnificent at one stage. Let me tell you what. And we're just literally, we're like babies waking up, and we're in a cot and we're looking up at the sky and we're wondering what's going on. And now we're wandering around like toddlers, falling over our feet, wondering what this is, and picking up stones and being obsessed with gold and diamonds and all that. We're literally like mumbling idiot babies that have no idea how we got here, why we even here, why we have these obsessions, why we live in a capitalist society, where does money come from, where does royalty come from, who are the first priest kings, who was Adam, how come Adam lived before Eve, and all this stuff. It's like we have no freaking idea. We don't understand science and physics and how it all works. Newton's laws are so flawed, are so full of problems, because Newton, I mean, as brilliant as he was in identifying and writing all these that work, I mean, the formulas work, but it's within a very limited construct, within the physical construct that we find ourselves in. And Newton himself says he knew very little, if anything, about magnetism. So the number one force that rules the universe, which is magnetism, he knew nothing about. So he didn't equate or work it into any of his equations or arguments or gravity. None of that. If you think about when they talk about, and I know I'm jumping around all over the place, but this is all connected. You've got to have a good knowledge of all of this. Otherwise, when you do research of ancient civilizations that had very, very advanced technology, that used toroidal fields, that used torus stones to generate energy, that used cone-shaped tools to focus the energy, to create phaser beams and laser beams and who knows what. We're just still imagining what they had magnetron-shaped ruins with 50-meter diameter magnetron. Do you know how much energy a 50-meter diameter magnetron would generate? We can't even imagine that when a little magnetron this size is what powers every microwave. Right? Now imagine what a 50-meter diameter magnetron would do. It's just insane. We know so little, and yet we teach the flow of electricity through wires works like this, which is all BS. There's no flowing of anything. There's energy. There's no physical things that flow in a wire. And these are all things that trip us up through our education system. So when you start looking at the history of the world, and now we have evidence that there were giants. I've got a tooth, this incisor, that giant would have been probably 80 to 100 meters tall. And then I have a finger, the front part of a small toe of a giant, this front part here.
Yeah.
And that seems to be consistent with the size of giant where the tooth comes from.
Okay.
And the tooth comes from up the mountain, not far from me. And the finger, front part of the little toe, comes from my driveway at Stone Circle Lodge. I dig it up when we were digging foundations for one of our cottages. I mean, you can't make this up. And how do I know it's the front part of a giant, of a toe of a giant? Well, I had it remote viewed when I was 2019, the last time I was in the USA, on the last tour of the USA. A proper tour when I used to do like 20 or 30 cities every year. And and I was at James Gilliland's ranch in Washington State. And we used to do a weekend workshop there as part of my tour. And he had a guy called John Vivenko there, I think he's Australian. Is he Australian or American? No, he might have been American. And John he teaches remote viewing. Remote viewing where you got
you get the coordinates or like a number
project their thoughts, and they can describe a scene exactly how it is. They literally can see what's going on there. There's a great documentary called Third Eye Spies on YouTube. It's free. Third Eye Spies. I highly recommend everyone watch that. It's insane.
And that's even because it was the CIA from the Stargate project that they actually made the whole protocol with Ingo Swann, and then they even made a movie called Men Who Stared at Goats with George Clooney.
Exactly. Men Who Stared at Goats was made based on at Stanford University. Was very involved, and the guy that started that whole that remote viewing program is the star in this documentary. He's now in his 80s when they made the documentary, but it's absolutely mind blowing. So this guy said to me, "Do you want me to remote view the stone?" And I said, "Yeah, that'll be awesome." So he took a picture of it, just of the picture of me holding it in my hand. He sent it to 12 of his students around the world. All he said to them is, "Remote view this object." He didn't say it's a stone. He didn't say this is Michael Tellinger's stone. No, so they had no idea what this was they were looking at.
Yeah, and that's also just for the listeners. Remote viewing, you just get a number. Usually, they don't tell you anything about it, and you just get a number, and then you got to figure out. Well, not figure out. You got to remote view the number, and then so you're totally blind. They call it a blind target, so you don't know what you're looking at, and then you just get
it's mind blowing. So this is what happened, and I love this. I love this because now you can use these results to argue a scientific and a mathematical principle called probability, right? And that's absolute. These are highly studied scientific arguments that we use all the time in science and physics. Probability, right? Now, All 12 of those people came back the next day and said, it's the front part of the small toe of a giant that he lost in battle. And they described the battle
Wow,
that
amazing.
the giant lost his toe in. The one person said, it's either a small toe of a giant, the front part, or the pinky of a giant. So, but all of them said the same thing. The statistical probability, the 12 people that don't know each other, they have no idea what this object is, that they could tell you the same story, is simply statistically impossible, which means it is the front part of a small toe of a giant.
But I'll tell you an interesting story, Michael. I was in India recently, like a few months ago, and I was looking at it because I was trying to make a documentary on Jesus being in India. And I was at a temple where apparently he was part of the construction. And I went with Bibu Dismira that wrote the Yuga Cycles book. And we were staying there, and the caretaker of this temple, he came up to us and he said, and we were talking about all the stuff, all those things, and he said, yeah, like a year ago, they dug up some giants in the frontier. I saw them. They pulled out the skeletons, everything, and then we were like, well, where are they? And he was like, I don't know. They just took them away. I don't know where they are, but they dug it up right here. I saw it.
Yeah, they're trying to. There's something going on because every single ancient text mentions giants. Every single ancient text says that we had giants. But why are the Smithsonian trying to hide it? That doesn't make sense. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and also because even the Bible says all
the ancient texts. Yeah.
You would think it would be like the Christians would love that shit to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, look, there's obviously, and this is part of the same agenda that is trying to, put our education system in a box to only teach what they want you to know, and do not ask questions, do not explore. This is what it is, and if you ask outside the box, you get slapped on the knuckles and say, stop asking questions. So the story of giants is all over the world. We know there were giants. If people that don't want to believe it, God bless you. Have a nice life. I don't care. It's your own stupidity that stops you from exploring. I feel sorry for you. Really, just like I have no more sympathy. I don't mix my words. I do not hold back if I meet people like that. I just, I'm nice and polite to say, it's okay. You don't have to believe it. God bless you. Have a nice life. Not, we can't have a nice discussion because I'm going to talk about giants and you're going to think I'm crazy. So rather go your own way and leave me alone. And,
sure.
there are many people that share the knowledge that I have, and they've found their own way to this conclusion. So history was filled with giants, but it's really important to understand that it wasn't just one size of giants. We're talking about a whole spectrum of giants, so we're talking about the Anunnaki or the Anakim. I believe that when the Bible talks about the Anakim, I think Anakim and Anunnaki may be the same group of beings, and they may be like between 3 and 5 meters tall. So that's, we think, wow, that's big, that's a giant. No. Then you got like the 10-meter giants, like the guy that left the giant footprint here, at Mpaluzi.
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, that's incredible. Because for people that are listening to this, go onto the internet, Google Michael Tillinger, the footprint, in which area is that?
Giant footprint. Yeah, it's right on the border of Swaziland in Mpumalanga. Yeah.
And you'll see it's a proper footprint that's in the rock. It's about half the size of Michael or me or whatever, and you can't.
But that's still small, eh?
And you can't
that's a 10-meter giant.
It's definitely a foot. You can look at it and it's a foot. I mean, there's no other way to.
Yeah, look. Sometime in the 90s, there was a group of researchers. They were from Europe or somewhere, and they came and they did a mold of that footprint, and they took it away and studied it and concluded this is a foot. This is a footprint. This is not a carving.
They even said it was a female footprint. They
Something
even could
like
identify
that.
the sex on it.
Yeah. So that's like a 10-meter giant. Then we have like 50-meter giant, 40-meter, 50-meter giants. Then we have like the guy whose tooth and finger I've got. That's like 80 to 100 meters. Then we have the 150-meter giants, and I've got body parts of theirs and bones up the mountains, and those weigh like 20 tons. You can't pick those up and move, can't even roll them around, And then and then we have the 300-meter giants and the 500, and then we have the big ones, the big giants that I believe were the ones that the biggest ones, and they were 3,000 ells tall, and that comes from the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, Enoch says that the giants on earth in the early days were 3,000 ells tall. Now, one ell is from your fingertip to your elbow, so that's about half a meter. So 3,000 ells would be 1.5 kilometers tall.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you start thinking about, okay, if they were giants 1.5 kilometers tall, and these giant trees that we see that they were chopped off and then they died and then they turned to stone. If you look at the diameter of those trees, some of them like a kilometer in diameter. If you multiply that by 10, I've done a little study like the average tree trunk diameter and the average tree height, just multiply it by 10. That tree would be 10 kilometers tall. And now you've got a 1.5 kilometer giant, 10-kilometer tree. Hey, now you've got perspective. You've got ratios and perspective. And it all starts to fall into place. And gold is a very important part of it. But I think we might be going a bit too deep now. It's gold is a very important part of this.
Yeah.
But Michael, I just wanted to ask you also, I mean, through this whole thing, what kind of mystical experiences, or have you encountered UFOs, or has there any been like guidance to guide you on this thing, or what's?
Yeah, so I have these group of ETs with the UFOs that come and meet me about once a month. They land next to Stone Circle, and I go in with them into their spaceship, and we fly around, to Mars and Jupiter and everywhere. No, I'm just talking BS.
I was like, wow, this is incredible.
It's like, damn it, just film that, man.
Did I have you going there? For a while?
No, I mean, we were just talking about 10-meter, what is it, 10-kilometer trees. I was like, this is fine. I mean,
No, but that's true.
Yeah, no.
Don't be
I
confused.
have never seen any UFOs. Sorry, I lie. Actually, I lie. At James Gilliland's ranch, you see UFOs all the time, but they're just lights. They're lights that move and they just move very fast and make a 90-degree turn, and then they slow down and they power up. At James Court, they power up and they go really bright and they go really dim and they just go and disappear. That I've seen many, many times, but I've never seen what you can call a UFO to actually see the shape of this craft or ship or whatever it may be. I've never seen aliens, and I've never seen that, and thank God for that, because then I'd be distracted and go down that rabbit hole, and I'm very comfortable in the rabbit hole that I'm in, especially the one small town rabbit hole, because that is my obsession, and I believe that's my calling, and that's why I was born, and that's why I'm here.
I think you need to change your rabbit hole. It's not a rabbit hole. It's now a black hole, because there's no bottom. It's like
no, there is no bottom. And it's a beautiful black hole. It's a toroidal black hole. It's what gives everything, from which everything comes and into which everything is repurposed.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because all the things that I've learned from studying the ancient civilizations, the technologies, the stone circles, my take on the pyramids and all the temples and Egypt and Pumapunku and Sacsayhuaman and all these ancient sites around the world, Borobudur and Angkor Wat and etc. etc. It's all ancient technology. These are all machines. Every single one of those ancient sites is a bloody machine. So that's just prepared me for the one small town initiative, and realizing that we have to find solutions for this world that we're in, because it's just so screwed up that there is no good outcome. The path that we're on does not have a good ending unless we do something very different from what's happening now. And that's, I started that the same time that I was writing Slave Species of God, because that's when I discovered the origins of money, the Anunnaki, the Sumerian clay tablets, the first temples, the first royal bloodlines, the first priest kings that were lowered to earth from heaven by the gods, and they suddenly owned all the land, and they built their temples, and they started to issue money from the temples and dispense justice and punishment, and the courts were all in the temples. So it was the court, the bank, the jail, everything is like, whoa. And that was the origins of everything that has just then evolved from then, and the money system especially. When I discovered that, I realized, oh my God, money was an artificially created tool of enslavement by these higher beings that did it consciously because they knew this was enslave humanity, and they did that for exactly that reason. And the Rothschilds just perfected that system with their promissory notes, negotiable instruments, and bills of exchange. In 17 whatever, or 1676, or whenever the Rothschilds, or 1760, whatever, when they created the idea for the central banking system, they just took that ancient money system and they perfected it. And it blows my mind at what a great job they did. Look at it. We all enslaved by central banks.
100%.
Yeah.
But my main thing is one small town, because I really believe that if we don't find a solution, if we don't break away from this current system, we're going to self-destruct. There is no good outcome to the path that we're on right now. How is it going to end? What is it? I don't. If anybody thinks this is going to end well, the capitalist world in conflict with some communist ideologies and puppet masters trying to control it, and World Economic Forum and the so-called global elite and the shadowy figures that are trying to manipulate everything from behind some veil. This isn't going to end well. None of this is going to end well. We have to find something else. And I've spent the last 2 decades beautifully crafting the one small town model through trials and tribulations, time and time and time again. And every time we try something, we learn more and we get stronger and wiser and smarter to realize why things haven't worked in the past. So we're now at a stage where the One Small Town initiative is just ready to explode. We've developed our own technologies, our recycling technology for plastic and rubber and other technologies that we're working on, from air conditioning and hot water systems and desalination and water purification and energy, alternative energy systems, all the things that have been suppressed. And obviously health and wellness, and the importance of water in health and wellness, structured and oxygenated water and all of this, which literally cure for all disease. So we're working on a lot of these things with the One Small Town Innovation Hub, and it's just literally exploding as we speak. Expanding.
Can
rapidly.
people get involved in that to assist? Or
Absolutely.
How does that work?
That's the whole idea.
Okay.
Just go to our website, onesmalltown.org, read as much as you can, watch all the videos. Again, read the website, how to get involved, how to become an ambassador, what to do, and then realize this is not a simple thing. This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. We're going to change the world, and we're going to save the world. And I can't do it for you. You're going to have to do it for yourself in your community. So I've tried to write and share as much information and knowledge so people can take that and go, okay, I see how this works. I understand this. And unfortunately, and this is where the hippies and the bunny huggers and the tree huggers, as much as I love them, and I used to be, I'm still a bunny hugger and a tree hugger. I connect with trees and I hug trees every time I see a tree. But unfortunately, unless you have a business mind and a structured mind, and you understand how to run a business, how to manage people, how to have plans and project management and implement things, have reporting systems and accountability, it's not going to work. It's not just, we're not creating an intentional community where a bunch of people get together, move onto a piece of land, grow some food, and sit around the corner and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We're not doing that. Right? We're creating something totally different that is planned, that is meticulously planned and implemented and managed so that it doesn't fail. And for that, we've created a blockchain, our own membership system with our own infinity token, with our own digital wallet, so you can You can earn your tokens by contributing your 3 hours to your community. Then you can use those tokens to share, to exchange. We've created our own Bitcoin without the potential of being exploited or crashed by toxic traders. And that's what happened. Bitcoin is supposed to be the saving grace for humanity. Well, it turned out to be the enrichment tool for a handful of people that have made billions, and it's certainly not helped humanity. So our Once More Town Infinity token is a stable community token. It's a private membership reward system token. It is probably the most powerful token type cryptocurrency, if you want to call it that. It's not a cryptocurrency, it's an NFT really. And it cannot be crashed. You can't lose it. You can't lose your wallet and then it's gone. So it's once it's there and you've got it, you can do anything you want. You can trade it. You can send it to your friends and family. You can trade it with your friends for food or a car or a house, anything you want. And it's all private, part of our Once More Town membership structure. It's spectacular. And you have to contribute 3 hours to earn that token. So it's an asset-backed token. And it's backed by the most valuable thing we have, our own time. You can never take that back. You can never get those 3 hours back. And everyone has got 3 hours of time. And this is how our members contribute towards uplifting our communities, whether it's fixing the roads, helping the orphans, or setting up new schools, or doing sports, arts, and culture, or setting up companies and businesses that we run and we work in, and we make the profit and then share that profit equally amongst our friends. So this is like the opposite of communism and the opposite of capitalism. It's the opposite of both of those toxic systems. So if people say it sounds like communism, no, it's the opposite of communism. And it sounds like you're taking money away from people. Yes, it's opposite from capitalism, but we're giving people everything they ever dreamt of. And they decide what they want to do. You in your community decide, oh, we want to start growing corn, or we want to make laptops, or we want to make fridges or bicycles. You decide. It's your town and your community. And then you make it a success.
Jeez. I was just driving back from Barrydale and I went through this town called Elim. I don't know if you've ever seen Elim. I never have seen it, but I rocked up there. It is the most beautiful little town. I was like, oh my God. I was just wondering, this is so stunning. And it was so nicely kept and it was so beautiful, so quaint. It was so cute, and all the people were in the front playing and everything. And then we went and spoke to the one guy and we said, what's happening here? Why is everybody so happy, and why is it all that? They said, no, we all contribute. We all pay taxes to our community. Like they all contribute money to the community, and then they use that money to fix the houses, fix the things. So it's like a totally sufficiently run town. And
so that sounds like they've got aspects of the Once More Town initiative. They're doing it, and see how successful it is.
And it was
if
so
they
beautiful.
take it to the next level, if they just take this to the next level now, this is going to go crazy. How do you spell that town?
Elim, E-L-I-M. Elim.
Oh, Elim. Oh, yes, Elim. It's a biblical name, Elim. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I've driven past it. Yeah.
So like they've got a church there, and you can only move there if you belong to the church. Like you can move there, but you have to become part of the church. That was the one weird thing. But
that's right. I remember that now. I met people from Elim.
Yeah.
And they asked me, why don't we start Once More Town in there? And I said, well, because it's a religious thing. They all built around the religion. In One Small Town, we don't want to force any religion down people's throats.
For sure.
They can build churches for themselves, but then the people that belong to that church that's their church. So we don't want to force people, but sooner or later, people become more spiritual, and once you have security and you no longer fear whether you're going to survive or not, or whether you're going to have enough food, or if your children are going to be safe, or everything changes. Your perspective changes about life, your future, your community. Everything changes. Is my child going to get the right education? If you know that your community is providing the kind of education and stimulation for your children, it's totally different from what we're currently getting, the brainwashing and propaganda. It changes everything.
For sure. Wow. And do you still have your channel, Michael Tillinger? Because I used to watch a lot of it, but it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. The YouTube channel, yes. Yeah, I've actually started a whole new.
Oh, no, one I used to subscribe to your. It was like it wasn't on YouTube. It was a subscription thing.
Vimeo, the Vimeo channel, yes.
Oh, was it on Vimeo?
So
And you got a
I have
Prime
two
TV
channels. So sorry, Lee.
There's a Prime TV thing as well. On Prime TV, they had something of yours on as well. A series.
I don't know. There's Gaia TV. So I've got 2 or 3 series on Gaia TV.
Yes, I've watched
and I just
the Ancient Civilization one. It was incredibly amazing.
Yeah, and I was just there now. I was there in August, at the beginning of August. I did a lecture there for the Ancient Civilizations conference, the big conference with all the big names. You know, Greg Braden was there, and a whole bunch of people. Um, and they liked it so much they want me to do a whole series for Gaia now. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah. So where can the people find the TV to subscribe?
So just so the YouTube channel. So I've created a subscription thing on YouTube, so you can actually pay a monthly fee, and then you get a lot more content, in-depth content that I specifically do for that. But I load that on YouTube, and I also load it on the Vimeo channel. So there are two areas you can get it. The Vimeo channel has got hundreds. I think we got more than 350 series, 20-minute long series there. Videos there.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. That's when I found with the gold, that white gold you were talking about, that old guy, he said that he found it on his farm, and then he somehow chemically, and then it actually lifted
David
it
Hudson,
up.
yeah.
Was it? But whatever happened to that guy? He was an old guy, right? Is it?
No, he's not that old. David Hudson, I met him a few times in Phoenix, and then he came to South Africa in 2011. He did one of my events in Joburg at JCE, at the Teachers College, in the big auditorium there. Yeah, that was sold out. It was a big event. He was one of the lecturers there who came to do one of his lectures on his monoatomic gold. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that was. Anyway, sorry. Now we're keeping you here forever.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, Michael, it's been absolutely awesome, man. Really, really, it's been a pleasure having you on, and it's been really, really cool. Something I'm very close to this whole kind of thought that you have there, and yeah, it's awesome. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, and well done what you're doing.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, William. Thanks, Lee. Great talking to you guys, and good luck with the podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
It goes crazy.
Yeah,
much appreciated, Michael. Have a good evening.
All right. Have a good day. Good night. Ciao for now.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Cheers, man.
Let's just go to switch off there. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
Fantastic chatting to Michael. Yeah. Just definitely go watch the stuff on YouTube. He's got some really, really good stuff there.
Yeah.
With regards
I
to
used to subscribe to his channel for a while, but then obviously with financial things, you start like dropping subscriptions and stuff like that. But but it was like 5 years ago. I remember it was on a website. I think he's maybe changed it. I don't know, but there was incredible stuff. It was really amazing. So guys, definitely go and check that out.
Yeah, awesome. No, fantastic, guys and girls. William, thank you, man. Much appreciated for your time, and hope everybody enjoyed that. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers,
Thanks, Will.
guys. Bye.